Hey there dive buddies, welcome back. This is Josh with Certified Scuba, bringing you content that you're looking to see week after week. This week's topic, regulators. What are they for and why are there so many differences between them? So in my hand right now, I have a Scuba Pro Mark 25 Evo, my newest regulator that I have in my collection, and honestly, Scuba Pro has been the line I've been with most of my diving career. Now the first stage is the first step in a process that takes the air from our tank to our mouths. When we start off with a standard aluminum tank, we're going to have 3,000 pounds of pressure and it'll end up at 500 pounds of pressure. But we have to control that or regulate that pressure in some way, shape, or form, and that's what this exactly does. It takes that 3,000 pounds of pressure and puts it to what's known as an intermediate pressure, so kind of a half step in between. And once at that position, it allows us a couple of different options before we actually start breathing off of it. This top portion right here are what are known as high pressure ports. At the very bottom here, we have low pressure ports. Two different systems to work with. One at the very top right here, which allows our gauges to read properly, and then one on the bottom right here to connect a few different choices. So I mentioned up at the top how this is for my diving computer, which is hoseless, so that I am more free in my diving capabilities. These bottom ports right here are where I'm going to connect things like my second stage regulator. This is what I'm actually going to breathe off of. My quick disconnect for my inflator and my air tube. Living in the Northeast, it gets cold pretty easy here. The water isn't always warm. Warm temperatures up here, if we get 75, it's fantastic. But this time of year, early mid-March, we're talking 37 degrees on average. So we'll commonly have dry suit hoses connected to these as well. And another method which is pretty common here is using what's called an octopus, which is an extra long second stage regulator in case of emergency. Now once I have this intermediate pressure established, I can then go ahead and take it down to my ambient pressure, which is 14.7 psi. This is the guy that does it right here. This is our primary regulator, and this is what allows us to breathe as if we're on the surface. Now this video here isn't designed to get too in-depth between the differences between the technologies what companies put out there, some proprietary technology that one company might have over another. Just know that simple process of taking something at 3,000 pounds of pressure, putting it to an in-between pressure or an intermediate pressure at 145 psi, and then down regulating that even more to what we can breathe on the surface at 14.7 psi. One question that's commonly asked about first stage, is placement of this important, whether we are looking up or whether we're looking downwards on this? It is important to follow the design of what they have going on right here, and the reason why is because this is designed to work really well in cold water, so we prevent free flows, which are either the first or second stage being stuck open so that air is constantly flowing through. We also have the ability to what we call fine-tune these first stage regulators a little bit more. There's actually a spring up in the top right here that we can tighten or loosen. Tightening it will obviously increase the pressure a little bit, loosening it will decrease that pressure a little bit, so that every individual person can have the regulator that they want to breathe off of in their own way. An important step when we're talking about regulators, whether it be first or second stage though, is them being what we call balanced or overbalanced sometimes. Now a balanced regulator means that you're constantly going to get the exact same amount of air into your lungs, whether you're on the surface or whether you're 110 feet down. There's going to be no change in the way that regulator feels when you're breathing off of it. The reason why this is important is as we go deeper, obviously, that pressure is going to increase. And with some lesser quality regulators that might not be up to snuff with what I've got going on, you can actually feel that difference in the breath where it gets harder the deeper you are. When I first started scuba diving in the early 2000s, as I advanced along in my diving capabilities, one of the more common things that you will see is having a redundant air system attached to you. This, for me, is used in the form of a pony bottle. When you have a redundant air source, it's designed only to be used in emergencies or for decompression diving, which we're not going to really get into here. It's always important to have a regulator that is identical, if not better breathing than what you are used to breathing. This wasn't my first thought process, shame on me, when I first became an advanced diver, and I found the most basic regulator I could breathe off of to use for my pony mouth. It wasn't until the first time I went to go use that regulator, just as a test at depth at about 100 feet, that I went to take that first breath off of it, and it almost became an emergency situation for me because I wasn't prepared of how poorly it was going to breathe. I immediately went back to the scuba store and exchanged that regulator for an identical regulator that I was using at that time as well. That way, I knew that even at 110 feet, that I would be breathing the exact same way that I would be on the surface without an issue. So moving on away from the first stage regulator, let's talk a little bit about the second stage regulator and the importance of it. We mentioned how it is taking the intermediate pressure and turning it into what we're breathing on the surface, or ambient pressure, the pressure that is surrounding us as we go a little bit deeper. And what you have going inside of this second stage right here is you have a valve coming in, and then you have a spring lever so that when you breathe in, that lever is going to depress and allow that valve to open up and air to come in there. So since these are so sensitive, one important step when we take these out of our mouth, if we ever need to when we're switching to our secondary air source, is to always go mouthpiece down. Talk about that pressure, pressing in on this guy right here, right on the diaphragm on the front. If it goes out of your mouth like this, you're going to create a free flow because that pressure is going to push up on it immediately. So always go mouthpiece down. One common question that we'll incur with a newer diver when they first put their regulator in their mouth when they're setting up their gear is, why when I breathe off of it, does it sound funky, does it sound weird? This regulator and diaphragm are looking for more pressure against it that it's not receiving at that time, so therefore the diaphragm that we have right inside here is going to vibrate as it looks for more of that air. So there we have it, guys, buddies, a little bit of an understanding of what the regulator is all about, both our first and second stage, and some of the uses for it and some of the things we can connect to them. Thanks for stopping here at Certified Scuba today. Don't forget to like, click, share, subscribe, buttons down below right here. Our topics are based off of your questions and your feedback, so please let us know what you want to know about next when it comes to scuba diving.